pieces there. You
And then he
need
did the Manchester.
the rest of his fleet is still purchase more for now to see how it works out, and that's.
Yeah.
Oh, cool guy.
So, you know, it's about a third, a little more than 30-40% of the fleet, and most of it, that's the really mess. So it sounds like a good deal. We'll have to.
Yeah.
Detail a
Look into
little bit
that
more.
more.
Yeah, in terms of what the actual contract covers,
Take care.
you know, but it is a thought that it'll take a lot of load off the mechanic, will still come with repair. We can handle the basic.
Yeah.
We gotta go, or? Yep.
6 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. Looks like we got quorum in the event, so we'll start by taking attendance. John?
Yes.
Ellie, are you online? See her. I'm here. Stephen?
Yep.
Mark?
Here.
Sal?
Yep.
Mike?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Karen,
And Karen?
okay.
Right.
Go here.
All right,
Nice.
good. All right, so hope everybody brought their budget packet that Carrie Ann handed out last time. I see you've got one.
Again.
All right, and following with the schedule tonight, we have a list of items that'll be presented to us by the town administrator and the select board representative. Is Jack here tonight or? I don't see.
My understanding was he was coming. I didn't say the secretary and thought so too. So.
Okay, all right. But so just to summarize from last time. My understanding is that the way this process has come together right now is that the selectmen have met with the department heads. Department heads put forward budget. The selectmen have gone through and made adjustments to that budget. So is my understanding that in a sense, what we are looking at as a starting point now is the selectmen's budget subject to comments by the department heads here?
Not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily.
No, I mean, I think we're in sort of the same process that we've done in the past. Because you're gonna start meeting late in the season,
Yeah.
so it's you start at a starting point and then going on. So,
Yep,
I mean, I
okay.
think we've honed in some ideas where we think we can cut some further. I think I can carry on working on that as well, so
Okay,
or make suggestions of, but no, I don't think it's, I think it's the process.
yep, okay.
Very similar to the years, it's just.
And Carrie Ann, help me out, that summary sheet where, bottom line figures for stuff that was taken out by the select board, what page is that on this, do you know?
That was in the second section of the budget summary.
Okay,
This is the
Oh,
third
yeah.
page, so we had the different edits that everybody made. It was behind the warrant article.
oh, is it the, okay.
Yeah.
Article.
It's has budget summary. And when pages back.
Budget summaries, okay. And so there was a nice summary of where, as we get to work here, we looked to cut, there were some big areas, and I can't find it right now, so I apologize. Which I thought was helpful.
Even though warrant article.
No, there was a summary you had of which, where basically what the select board proposed to reduce.
So it's right before the fold out spreadsheets. I think is what you're looking for.
Town admin edits, yes, that's correct, so, right before the fold out. Found it helpful, and I just want to put everybody's attention to that again as we go through this process.
Jack's on his way, he thought it was 6:30.
Okay. So Sal's reminds me, before we move on, I should probably look at my own agenda. And I realized that I printed the one before I added the approved minutes, so thank you. But Elliot sent out earlier the draft minutes for March 30th. And also the draft minutes from October 21. And has everybody had a chance to look at those minutes? Did I say October? Yeah, September, sorry. Everybody have a chance to look at those? Any questions, edits, objections, anything like this?
I wasn't quite sure in two C. That Mike stated that $744,000 would need to be raised by taxes for the 2024 proposed budget as currently presented. I don't understand what that means, that. That 775 more would be needed to be raised by taxes? You see
Yes.
that 2C, is that-
Based on that sheet, it shows an increase of 744,000, and the discussion was, is that a 15% increase or 25%?
Right, but the minutes state, you stated that 744,000 would need to be raised by taxes for the 2024 proposed budget as currently presented. What you mean is that we need 744,000 more
More
than
last year.
would need to be raised by taxes.
Yes,
Okay, so can we make that edit? All right. Or clarification? Any other questions, additions?
I'll move it so we can,
All right.
I make a motion to adopt it.
The
Both
amended-
of them, actually.
Both of them, okay. Got a motion?
Yep.
Got a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? All right, motion carries, so the minutes are approved.
oh,
What else you got?
I'm sorry.
Make it a little quick.
According to Sampson, in the past, the town had conservatively estimated the annual revenue to create a type of contingency fund impact. Oh, but you didn't state how much. I guess you were just saying that the town had in the past estimated an annual revenue to create a type of contingency fund.
So there's no contingency fund line item, right? That's what we're trying to establish.
In the past, we
Right.
put contingency funds in the.
I know that, yeah, so
That might be a way to stay.
I don't know what that sentence explains, that's all.
On both of those, I said them, I read them, and I'm okay with whatever.
Okay, whatever, it's not huge.
The key issues of what is the budget gonna look like at the end, so.
Okay, anyway, all right. Sorry.
That's okay. So we're good then. We've adopted them, accepted them, and your question's been answered, Karen.
Thank you.
Sure. Jack, welcome.
So that was just approving the September 21st.
I believe Mike's motion was to do both.
Can we call, see if anybody else has any discussion about the other one?
Mike's motion was that we approve the March 30th and the September 21. Does anybody else have any comments or corrections to March 30th meeting?
You know, but I'll abstain on that. Over there. So
Right, okay. So if we stay with the vote and yours is gonna be an abstention, we'll have all yeas on the September 21 and all yeas and an abstention on the March 30th. Okay. Excellent. All right, so we're gonna go through, starting from the beginning of the budget here, as you can see on the agenda, and the proposed schedule, starting with executive, town administrator, so on and so forth. Stephen or Jack, I'm not sure who wants to do what. Jack? We'll start with right at the beginning, executive, town administrator. And then, we'll go on to data processing, assessing, legal, personal administration, government building, cemetery, insurance, general government, bridges, streetlights, health, recreation, and cultural, patriotic debt service, and capital outlet. So starting with the executive, which is on page 1 of the fold out proposed or draft budget, I should call it, under the tab 2024 budget. The top there, you want to go through and if there's anything you want to point out, look at the adjustments, the increases, any specific comments.
Yeah, I'll say that the big change here was the recommendation that the town administrator salary be increased to 110,000. Just to have a better market penetration. You'll see some increases in numbers there. But the administrative assistant wage didn't really increase. What we did was move it there. It used to be split in a couple of lines, and so we just consolidated into one because it's really intended to just pay that. So the net increase was whatever the $15,000 or $20,000 is to get it up there with $110,000. So other than that, and then it probably includes a 2.8% cost of living increase. I think we might have moved, we put a new line there for the minute taker to begin to distinguish the minute taker's expenses for the select board meeting versus other meetings that the minute taker does, just to try to allocate the costs where they really occur.
Because in the past, the minute taker has been just paid for all of the.
Yeah, just
different work.
just a lump, but.
Overpaid.
The, I think that's the only other change about it.
So
Yes, okay.
all the payment for the minute taker for all the different minute he takes in the different town meetings is all here in this line? No,
You add a minute taker for like planning board and the other things.
So under each subheading now, there will be a line for the minute taker, is that correct? So,
Yes, because right now in 2023, they're being coded to miscellaneous. So we're trying to create a line, so I can create a line in the budget committee also.
okay,
It did not do that in this version of the budget.
okay,
So is the 6650, is that the entire money allotted to Roger?
Yes, that's budget committee and select board.
Okay.
If it
it's
is
all of here.
Currently, yeah. But we're gonna try to separate it, so it's each partner that uses it is gonna have a portion of that and break it out
So this number is gonna get decreased.
in the.
Yeah, and then not for the total, but in the,
Correct. yeah.
okay, because I see that elsewhere in the budget, it's in the budget. I think there is some other place. That's what I'm asking about, where there was a minute taker budget.
The budget committee, I only do 2 of them. I don't know if you have somebody paid for anything else.
Maybe what my stuff is.
I just do the budget committee and the select. Those are the only 2 I think you're paying.
and so currently it's all right here.
Correct.
That would be good.
No,
Yes, Mike.
can I start on that first section? I have like 3 or 4 questions on that.
Sure.
How do you want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, what are your questions?
The first one is, I'm interested in what the total amount is for the administrative assistant, because it's located in several sections, and I just, so I was just curious. But
Let's start with that question. We'll do one question at a
okay,
time.
but on that same line, it says that the historian is now in there, but I don't know how much the historian is being budgeted. And did the historian get a cost of living adjustment or not? That's all the same line.
Yes, I did cost of living across all the positions, the 2.8%. And the administrative support line includes the administrative assistant and the historian. But I didn't give a raise to the administrative assistant because we currently don't have that position open. I just combined the two, the one line from the finance moved into the administrative support. And then fell under the 2.8% increase.
Can I answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, I got a couple of others.
Sure.
Maybe go on. And is somebody gonna give us the actual dollar amount for the historian at some point?
I can give you the personnel budget.
Well, I just, that one is hard to tell. I mean, I don't want every individual, I'm just wanting to see how much is being paid to the historian. It's a department sort of by itself. And I can't tell by looking at it, so that's why I'm asking.
I actually don't know anything about the historian. So,
Neither do
Paid
I.
it, paid once a year, at the
All right.
end of the year.
Oh. It's down, it was in the old budget, it was down lower, so I can tell you roughly, I can tell you what it was last year, I can tell you what it was budgeted last year. All I'm trying to do is to see if I hear you're saying that it went up, whatever the percentage was, but. Is that, I don't know if that's in there, because there's other, I'll come back. I really would like to request. How much is the historian getting in the proposed budget? Okay, how much of that 22,537 is for the historian?
Do you know the answer to that one yet?
Yes, I have a spreadsheet with every single person paid out of our payroll. With all the taxes and retirement factored in, so it's like a monster spreadsheet,
Alright.
and I can print it for the committee if you want.
That would be great. Yeah, next time, bring it along,
That's fine.
and then we can have reference to that for if there's other instances where there's things that are combined and people want to see it broken out. And we can, that would be excellent, thank you.
The second line is the selectman's salary, and while I think it's a good idea to do something with the selectman's salary. Unless the law changed, the selectmen can't set this out. It has to be done by the budget committee.
Yeah, the 2.8 as well.
Yes, I did 2.8 for
Yeah.
all positions.
Yeah, so that's part of the purpose of obviously what you guys want to do. I agree. I don't think they could, we could select their own salary. So that.
Because we do a lot higher than that, Mike.
I'm sorry.
I go a lot higher than that.
Yeah, I know.
That's not the point. I wanted to make sure that the budget.
Yeah, I think,
committee understood that that's
Yeah.
totally the
Yeah.
option of the.
I believe where there was personnel assigned that Carrie just went through and added the
Yeah.
2.8% plus.
And that's the same with the historian. If for some reason or other, there's no reason to give the historian based on what he does at 2.8, then that's fine. We just need to know that from the level of detail.
Alright, so I have a question for you, Mike.
Yeah.
Are you saying, I'm trying to understand what you're saying, like last year we had $9,600 for the $3,200 a piece, right? That's
Yeah,
what
the
we paid.
last time it was a raise was about 5 years ago.
That's okay.
It's done by the
Alright,
budget.
and so what happens is we can set that at any number we want.
Yeah.
Budget committee.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
And this is just what you've done is you've taken whatever was last year and you added 2.8.
So if you don't make any changes to it, we will put that back to the 9,600.
The bu-
We'll
budget
remove
committee,
the 2.8%.
the budget committee establishes all of these numbers.
Well,
The
okay,
budget committee has to have their budget,
okay.
and their budget is the one that goes to the voters.
Thank you, John.
If I could.
Yeah.
Going down through, the minute taker, there is another line that has a minute taker in it, so that's why I said no when somebody said.
Where is that, Mike? Because I couldn't.
It's 4150, it's line 68 in the spreadsheet, but you don't have a spreadsheet, so. The number is, department is 4150.20-110. And it says budget committee administrative support, that's the minute taker.
At $1,800.
That gets included with the first, with number 8, well, with the executive minute taker, so it's total of 14.
I can fix that because I didn't know that's what that account was geared towards.
So in essence, that would just zero out. And would it have to be added above, or is that, or would it, is it duplicative?
I can delete it from the executive line for the budget committee minutes, and I'll budget it in the 4150 line.
You can't mean that.
Which,
We can
you're
fix-
gonna.
Can you rename the budget committee and then admin and support to
Minute
the
taker.
same thing, the
Right.
budget committee? Where we have.
Minute taker.
Minute taker,
Yeah, you can actually,
Yeah.
but what makes all the difference is not the name, it's the account number.
but for clarity, because I didn't know that's where that was going to be, so that's what I'm saying, so for clarity, that would make sense.
Yeah, we want consistent terminology. So if we're gonna have the minute taker, going to post it to the account that it is incurred, yeah, it should be the same.
Right, so in effect, that would lower the 6,650 by 1,800, is that what we're saying? Yeah, got it.
I can figure out what I do for each for annually and send them to you if you want to get it tighter.
That would be great.
The other thing I would say is sometimes you do these administrative supports. I don't know if the budget committee spends money or anything else other than the minutes.
Hmm.
guy. That might be something to care about, or not care about.
It has been except for training in the past, but I mean, you can do anything you want.
Anybody wants to know, that would make that line 4850. Anybody just wants to write down notes for them. I guess would reduce that bottom line by that much, by 1,800 as well.
Well, let's double check that, because Carrie Ann didn't know that that line was for minute taker. It may be,
Right. We just want to make sure it's in there.
And my goal, by the way, with all these questions is not to change it so much as to identify as an area that we're gonna have to look at and fix or do something with.
And then the two lines have nothing, do they have to have a dollar in them?
No, the sub accounts do not need dollars, but the BRA calls an account is the 4-digit seven statement. So you just have to make sure like the 4150 has $1.
go back to this first page of the fold out spreadsheet, since that's what the report here, I think, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions on executive or town administrator?
I have just one comment,
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but for the selectman salary, why wouldn't we just make that a round number, 9,900, everybody gets $100 raise, woo-hoo. I mean, what's the deal?
Well, again, so you guys can decide that, but
Right.
like I said, we haven't had, the select board has not had a change in pay for 5 years, according to Mike, but I don't know if that's right or not, but it's long before my time period, so.
But if we're gonna give all the other employees. 2.8%,
Well, no, so we're not really true employees.
I know, but the argument is,
Typically,
if you're giving 2.8 to everybody else, and you give 3.1 to you, how come? I mean, we can give less and give 2.5.
you can give it none, like I said, we haven't had a raise in 5 years, so. Because typically the elected officials aren't tied into the budget, correct?
Right,
Right.
but except where the law says it, that's the only
Right.
difference between most of. Just a comment, yeah, personally on the first section on the executive, the only real issue, I don't really care one way or the other what we do with the selectmen. I know that there's only been 2 increases in like 15 years. Okay, so it hasn't had much in the way of an increase. So I'm okay with that. What I'm not sure about, frankly, is the first line, because I have no idea. We never paid an administrative assistant $22,000, and I know if you go down lower. You'll see under general government where the historian used to be. And under general government, it's $1,564 for this year. So that means that the executive administrative assistant is gonna be $21,000. And I think we spent a total of 18,000, but there's other administrative assistant lines down below that you're gonna see. So the question is, how much are we really putting into an administrative assistant? That's all I'm saying. I don't. my
Who is
goal is
that?
not-
Who is that, by the way? Who we talking,
What's
what's,
that? Vacant.
is vacant?
Is that what you said?
Vacant. It's the Sharon Duffy resigned, and it used to be that position.
Okay.
And those wages were coming out of the data processing line
Before,
and the.
so you've
executive-
just
So-
you've repositioned it.
What
Yeah.
we've done in for the moment is we've assigned and compensated Ashley to take on some additional duties. My recommendation to the board was, let's not put an administrative assistant in there yet, because I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if we need them. I think with a little time, we probably can have a better answer to what the workload is, and if you are to spend the money at the moment. We've added some responsibilities to Ashley's assessing clerk position. And she seems to be doing fine. We're also paying Monica by the hour for a few hours to help with setting up the equipment, uploading the videos, doing things related to public meetings. And that's really it. So that's not really a lot. Do I think you need an administrative assistant? I'm not so sure at the moment, honestly, so that's just my sense.
In fact, the reason I'm asking the question is because scuttlebutt was that Monica was doing it and actually was doing it. So in order to have transparency, it's a fairly large number now at the top, but it doesn't say it's going to Monica or Ashley. And the only way to get a handle on it is to find out how much is actually dedicated to administrative assistant functions there. And see how it impacts the welfare department and how it impacts the other stuff that's lower in the budget, so that's why I raised the issue.
Right.
So and for the rest of the budget committee. I'm just saying that some of these things have been moved around quite legitimately.
Yep.
The problem is they're not transparent.
What we can do is we can take what Ashley and Monica are getting paid and we can trisect it, so you can see how many hours Monica's putting in, how many additional dollars we're spending on Ashley for admin stuff over and above her assessing stuff. And maybe we can kind of,
Yeah, Monica's already splitting out her hours. She gets paid from 2 different accounts.
right. So Monica gets paid for her hours as welfare director and she's separately cataloging the time for this sort of administrative assistant stuff.
So this,
We can try to break that out, so it's a little more visible. I get it.
so yeah, so this number, your point is it's including money for a number of different functions by employees that are already there doing stuff for other tasks.
And when I did the analysis of this thing, I looked at it, I heard about Monica, I heard about Ashley, Ashley told me, so I mean, it wasn't state secret or anything. And then I went down and said, okay, well, what happened to Ashley's wages, looked at that, what happened to Monica's wages are up. Under welfare, so then the question is, okay, well, how is the total amount for Monica, how much of it is going into administrative assistant? And frankly, when you were paying somebody 15 hours a week to do the administrative assistant stuff, it was about 16 grand. So, and looking at the 20,000, 21,000, that gave me some pause as to why it seemed like there must be new functions or something like that.
And again, that's not necessarily reflective of what we are spending, but what your next administrative permanent one might might need. Ultimately, the select board will decide what of that bucket of money needs to be spent and when and how. But again, this is just a budget to give resources in the event that ultimate decision is made to have a greater presence of an administrative assistant than we do at the moment.
So
I'm
you,
hoping we're gonna go back over the budget at some point in time between now and January.
Oh, yeah.
And make adjustments. So I highlighted the 3 I mentioned is needing to have some type of a review and adjustment.
Thanks, Mike.
I have none actually in the town administrator. I understand why you're going up on the dollar amount to, I'm not surprised at all about that.
and I guess I'm trying, if you're highlighting these, I mean, do we want? I mean, I suppose as we move forward, I'm making notes, you're making notes, people are making notes. At some point, we'll want another version with some of these changes made. I don't necessarily think that needs to happen on a weekly basis, because we're not gonna go backwards. We're gonna just move forward.
I actually got a hold of Carrie Ann last week and asked her for an Excel version of this fight. So I have my own budget, that's her budget, okay, but I've annotated the hell out of it. But I also can keep track of the changes, at least as I perceive them when we're doing it. I haven't changed anything, but those were 3 items that I highlighted. That we really ought to go back and look at. The advantage of having an independent spreadsheet is that as we go through and try to come up with a budget, I can make the change here and see how it impacts it immediately. And theoretically, Carrie Ann could do the same thing, but I'm saying, at least for my purposes, it's easier. It's a lot of paper, it's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of paper and numbers. When I did it, there's no magic, it's terrible to have to deal with all those numbers. But if you got some vehicle that you can track the thing, it will work better.
So I would request then, Carrie Ann, whenever you change something, right, and you issue a new thing, you itemize what the changes were and where they were.
I believe we're doing that now.
Is that,
Yeah, is it okay? So how we've been doing things for the CIP committee is, I think Todd sent an email, so I have everybody's email addresses. And then after the meeting, I do the fixes and I email out the new spreadsheet. But I would just need the budget committee's email addresses to follow that process.
So what we try to do that, try to see, this is where we started.
Right.
You guys get to make the decisions, we'll make the adjustments,
yes.
and we ultimately through the process, we'll get you where you need to be.
Right, well,
And
you know,
we'll,
my point is,
Right.
Mike, to Mike's point, there's a lot of numbers in here.
Yeah.
So that whenever you change one, there should be a change sheet, if you will, that says I changed this, I changed this, and that's all. So we can,
Highlighted in color like.
yeah,
Highlight that box.
that would be helpful, but then you got all kinds of colors and you never know what's going on.
Cell maybe?
That's,
I don't know, whatever's easier for you.
yeah, I think a simple change would be
At
fine.
the risk of causing a war.
Yeah.
It would be easier if somebody, and I'm offering to do it, but that comes with great trepidation. It's be easier if somebody actually did a spreadsheet. It's a budget committee spreadsheet. And then when Jack and Carrie Ann come in and say, we want to change this number, we could change it on ours. Which gives us a dual system that verifies what each of us is trying to do.
Kind of about, what do you guys think of that?
It's up to you guys. I mean.
No, but how's that like, is that like, oh geez, this is now gonna create a whole bunch more work for us?
Well, as long as you're using the same spreadsheet,
Yes,
then from a statutory point of view, the work that you do with the aid of town staff. Just has to be in an end product that we can manage as the budget gets approved and goes forward. So if it's on the same spreadsheet. You want to manage it, that's fine, as long as we can grab it, incorporate it.
It's on the same spreadsheet. There will be problems because in your budget, you've wrapped together reserve accounts. And non-lapsing accounts, even though the account number is the same for DRA, but they get reported on the MS. What the hell is the MS 2, is it? They get reported in different areas, even though it has the same account number. By wrapping it together, it's much more difficult to see the impact on the budget because it's coming out of reserve accounts or wherever. And I understand why it was done that way. I got it, but it's not functional as a budget to do it that way. If you go back and look at previous MS2s, you'll see it. The place it usually shows up is down, anytime you get down to warrant article like that. It's got the same account number down there as up in the general fund, but the relationship is to a different function that. It's there, and you can't mix them up, otherwise you're overstating or understating your general fund budget. It gets calculated, I checked, it's in there and it shouldn't be in there. So all I can tell you is I'm working with Carrie Ann's spreadsheet.
yes, Carrie Ann?
And I just wanted to let everybody know that, my opinion, whatever we need to do to get through this year, I'm super open to that. We did purchase a new accounting software. There is a budget module. We won't have it live for this budget season because we've already started. But next year, the budget software, there won't be any version control. Everybody gets logins. The department heads log in, enter their information, and then the system tracks all the edits for us. And then everything is in there. We can run reports and we can actually run the forms that we need for the DRA on those numbers. So it'll be a lot different next year. It'll be more streamlined and like everyone will have logins to see everything. So whatever we need to do to get through this spreadsheet version of this budget season, it's gonna change next year too.
Okay. So, I just want to make sure we're talking about changes, you're noting them, you're noting them. And so a spreadsheet will be generated with these changes and with all of us to the extent that we want to make sure they're consistent and that they've been done. I guess however it worked, my opinion would be however it works easiest. And thank you for, agreeing to do that, Mike. And I just want to make sure there's that it's not causing headaches, right? And then it's actually productive.
I don't think it will. Listen, this is a transition year.
Yeah.
So my understanding is you're gonna be managing a spreadsheet. And Mike will be taking a look at what you do and making comments to assist
On
or.
behalf of the budget committee.
He's gonna get,
I'm gonna do it for myself anyway. I'll
Okay.
Send out a copy, I'll send them a copy and they can do whatever they want.
at the end of the day, all we need to know is that we have. With whatever the spreadsheet is, we're gonna manage the town budget on. Incorporates all the changes you make. That's all we need to know.
Yeah,
We just need
so sometime around the 1st of January, I'll look at your final draft, and I'll look at mine, and if there's a problem, I'll try to raise it before the hearing, that's all.
Okay.
Right.
Because, we may, like I said, going through this process, there's probably gonna be points where we're gonna have to meet, because we're gonna wanna make some changes to that and cut
Yeah.
some stuff.
Yeah.
So,
No,
okay.
Let's just keep.
Anybody else have any thoughts on what we just discussed?
I just like the idea of receiving electronic versions of spreadsheet.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'll just need everyone's email.
Yep, okay.
I'll send you the email through.
You'll have it right away.
See, I think I sent an email today.
Yeah.
That I believe had both of you on it. So that should have everybody's,
Okay,
if that's helpful.
Yeah.
It was with the agenda.
Right.
So,
Okay.
all right, so then, moving on, financial administration, I know these are not in order as these are set up, but. Let's figure that is. On page 2, flip on the back side of that pullout. Starting with, 415010-110. Anything? You want to comment on that?
I really just kept this salary the same because I wasn't sure what to budget for myself. And then I moved, obviously, the insurance line. And that was the service contracts will have a new software system, so I use what that software is gonna cost. We're gonna stick with the current payroll system, so those are the service contracts. If we move down to the big changes were in the town hall, the TH section. That's where if we're looking at the new payroll software that goes along with the current or the new accounting software we're getting. So that 3,500 would be on top of the current payroll system line item. And then that would give us the funds to implement a new payroll system next year. The software and hardware support, that changed a lot because that was one of those where the invoice was being paid out of that one line. The invoice comes broken out for all the other departments. So now the police and highway have their own software and hardware line for the Twin Bridges contract. Their portion of it is coming out. So that's why that decreased
That's why it
so
dropped.
much.
Could we tackle it just one department at a time?
Oh yeah, sorry. So back to the set, does your salary include the 2.8% increase?
No.
I'm not currently making that.
She wants us to advise. She didn't,
You just left it the way it is.
Yes.
And to be clear, frankly, Carrie Ann has not come up on a 90-day review yet.
Oh, okay.
And so she's still at her starting.
Just in that period.
so in my mind, that gets a little block saying, okay, it's gotta be reviewed.
Yeah, and are you noting
We
that?
could go through finance administration.
Yep.
So on the 10-5 for the service contracts, is that both a BMSI and an MTS contract, or is it just the MTS contract, or what is it?
It's both of them combined.
You know what the MTS contract would be without it, an annual basis?
MTS is $7,500 and BMSI is $3,000.
Thank you.
Does that include the initial installation as well? That,
No, the initial installation is coming out of 2023.
okay.
And we doing town hall next?
No, we're doing data processing next.
That's town hall now, is that right? Yeah.
It's town hall now.
Yeah,
So data processing is town hall.
I changed the DP to TH,
Okay.
so it was more consistent.
Thank you for pointing that out, because I did not know that. So that down to where we were before, talking about the reduction in the software has, because it's elsewhere in the budget.
Yes, and that's where the 41506120, that account line was zeroed out and moved up to the executive line.
So on that one, why do we have unemployment and workman's comp there? There's no
Is that
payroll.
the treasurer? That was what came out of the treasurer and deputy treasurer.
Well, that should be up above.
Right.
It is, it's treasurer up above, and this. All I'm saying is, if you don't have any payroll in that department, it's TH, you don't have any FICA or any unemployment or anything like that.
Okay. I'll move those.
When you say move, where are you thinking of?
To the treasurer.
They'll go up to the treasurer.
To the treasurer.
Yeah, they're attached to TR, then it'll go out of TH and come up to TR.
And those are the lines, so to me, my logic was 4150 was all one department,
Mhm.
so from. FA bookkeeper salary all the way down to TH hardware upgrades, to me, that's one whole department. So that unemployment and workers' comp was for myself. The assistant treasurer and the treasurer.
Well, personally, I prefer it to be with the treasurer so we can keep track of the function when it goes on. There's a big department under DRA code, it's a big department, but there's other ones like that too.
So the request is to move these up to under the treasurer lines.
Yeah, and then I would have to create the same in finance bookkeeper salary, because that would also need unemployment and workers' comp. Because there's an employee in that department.
So was that part of that one down under town hall as well, or where was it?
Yes, because the town hall is 4150.60.
Yeah, I got it, but so those two lines that are under town hall, $540 and $990. That includes the treasurer and it includes the finance administrator?
Okay.
Yeah.
So those numbers will be
So
broken.
you want them broken out
Even more.
as to the specific salary.
Any other questions on financial administration or town hall? All right, moving on, assessing. What the next, is that top of page 3? Is that what AS is?
Yes.
It's very bottom of page 2.
And I- yes.
Oh, right, yep. So this is where. What you discussed at the last meeting where the insurances and everything are now. Broken out into, put in under each section rather than being lumped in all together like they used to be. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
But you don't have the workers' comp and unemployment in that.
Yeah, I was trying to save our chart of accounts, so everybody in town hall. I put under the town hall unemployment. Because I'm gonna have to create 2 account codes for every position, and that would include tax collector, town administrator. So I was really just trying to lump everything into town hall unemployment, town hall workers comp. To catch all those.
All right,
Or
then
both
I
ends.
recommend don't move the other two until we've gone through this ones. In other words, leave it alone in town hall. I mean, I see the logic. I don't know what the other departments look like, so it's just, I just highlighted it,
You're trying to distribute all the insurance.
but not the workers' comp, and I don't have any problem with that. It's not.
We'll do one thing one way and the other thing the other.
Well, workers' comp is a huge number. So the question is certainly, which, hold it finish all the time. So on the assessing salary, coordinator salary. That has an increase, but that's a percentage increase for that position, right? I assume. And it does not, just clarification, it does not include any time or money that's associated with being basically an administrative assistant for other programs.
I don't think she's broken that out yet, Mike, so that is 40, in 2023, correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie Ann, but the 45,760. Does include wages that she's earning as town administrator as well.
Correct.
Correct, because we have not made that split yet.
Right,
so
but the
we'll have to
number
make
that's
that split.
57,732 has the cost of living. All right,
It has the projected expend for 23. with an increase in it, my guess is.
But that doesn't include functions like,
It does because it's based on this year's number, so she hasn't split it out yet. In the
Well, that makes it-
2023 estimate, she hasn't split the two positions out of what Ashley's making.
then you still got a lot of money up on the administrative assistant. Up above. I tagged it
She's
to
gonna
those.
split it first, and then we can see what the actual number is gonna be, so.
And again, as you get through this transition and hire a full-time manager. I understand what you're saying, if you cut out that 20 grand, then you won't have an ability to hire an assistant administrative assistant. You won't have it.
With all
So-
due respect, the problem is, if it really is gonna end up as a $750,000 increase, and we're gonna go up another 4,000 or 5,000. Because we want to anticipate what the new town administrator needs. And this might not be the best year to put that in if everything else is through the roof. And I don't know that it's through the roof. Until we break out the capital reserve funds and the dedicated funds and all the rest of the crap, because.
Sure.
At one point, when I did the analysis, it only looked like it was a couple $100,000, so I think we need to get there.
Yeah,
before we
I
catch up.
understand. It's a process.
Are we still on assessing?
Mhm.
What is the utility billing?
Avatar has a module for water and sewer, and we.
Why is that billed to water and sewer? Figured that's what it was, because that's the only utilities we have.
When I looked back through where the invoices were charged in previous years, it came out of that software support line, so I kept it there.
It should not be that. It shouldn't have been under the last year's budget, the year before. The software support that is under there is primarily for accessing through Avatar to the tax cards and that type of stuff, so. To my knowledge, there was never any money in there. There were payments to Avatar, but Avatar also runs the tax mapping and it also runs all the assessing software for, that's used in the computer. It's used for billing and property tax bills. And the water and sewer has separate lines for it down under the water and sewer. So that's why I don't think it's utility billing. It may be for tax billing, but it's not for utility billing. And it may be for the tax maps, but it's not, the tax mapping up above. It's the same concept. That is an Avatar assessing, that's correct, but the software support is probably just for the, every account in the tax department has a piece of the software, this Avatar software, where all the information is recorded by the assessors. So I don't, whatever it is, it's not utility billing. And you need it there, but it's just not utility billing, it's for the property tax package.
You don't look like you'll get this.
No, I wrote it.
Okay, you all right?
For a second, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on assessing?
Yeah, I think I put it down.
Was it something?
Yeah, on assessing dues, I put $1 in. Unless the rules have changed since last October, you still need, in order to spend in an account, a separate account that's listed in the detail account, you have to have at least $1. And the reason is you can't spend unless it's got an appropriation that was approved by the voters. This is what gets approved by the voters, not the short version. That's the MS2 version. So preserve that. I think John Bergeron would back me up on this. Preserve that. To be able to buy and get dues, we have to put $1. So. I think there's about 6 or 7 of those accounts in the budget.
Okay, well then, why don't we put $1 in?
I was just under the impression that what the DRA refers to as a line is the 4152, and as long as that department has money budgeted.
Yeah, but that isn't correct. That's a reporting form for DRA. The budget that goes to the voters is a detailed budget that has at the top a single number that's approved by the voters. That number comes out of the detailed budget that's in the town report. If you don't put that in that way, I personally would, I used to.
Can we get a
live-
clarification on this from the legal counsel?
You can, but here's the deal. I was a taxpayer in Meredith. I had property in Meredith. I went in and the town manager in Meredith proposed a budget that only had 18 lines in it. So that's what you gotta approve, and I had $1.8 million for administration. I asked my brother-in-law, who'd been the voter there for 25 years, exactly what it meant. He had no idea, and I asked at the meeting, and nobody had an idea. I am totally opposed as a budget committee member with having a budget that has been contracted down into a reduced number of lines. In the summary which Gary Ann had for you, it's a lot shorter, but it does not give any type of detail necessary to
understand
tell the
that.
voters. okay?
So,
We have a 5-year history of not spending a nickel in this line item,
yeah,
so
But it's.
why do we have to save it? What would it be used for?
and if the legal opinion is that if push comes to shove, it's a group, and as long as there's money appropriated in that group and we need it for something. I mean,
I would
That's
never
what I
vote
don't
for
know,
that
I don't
budget.
know what the.
Yeah, but
I don't know what the
every
use
time,
is.
every time you ask the lawyer, it's hundreds of dollars. And if you just put $1 in every blank line, it's a done deal and it's noise.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. Let's do that.
Of course, then
You
you
don't
have
have
a
to worry
bunch
about
of
it.
dollar
You
lines
can-
that you never, to Mike's point, that you never
So
use.
if there are, I don't know what it's
Yeah.
for, it could be like it's a real emergency.
Every department has
It's like,
us an association, there's a welfare association, there's an assessing association. So if you're gonna belong to that association, you gotta pay for the dues. So what are you gonna pay for it if you don't, if you got a line and you have nothing in it, that means they can't spend it. Zero,
What do you mean? by-
no means no, if it's zero, you can't spend it.
Yeah, an example
What
would
are the
be,
dues?
this year, the select board decided to pay Upper Valley Land Trust for membership.
Right,
And we had $1 in the budget, so they could do it. If they had a 0 in the budget, they couldn't do it.
Can't do it.
Well, that's what you say. I don't know that that's true.
That is true.
It is true.
Well, whether it's only 4.
We're getting
digits or
conflicting
whether it's
opinions
9
here on whether that is or is not. true.
I'll split the hair on that one, because it is true. To the extent that you want to give a detailed budget to the voters. So here's what you could do, and you could legally do it, and I'd raise holy hell about it. You could go back
So
to the
definitely gonna
summary,
do it.
right?
Definitely gonna do it.
Okay, then
Once
do
you
it,
get
but I'm just pointing out that you would go back to the summary you got up here. Okay, and that summary was a lot shorter, and it would make a lot of people happy, but it wouldn't tell them what they're voting for. So that summary is a grand total of. I think the other one's like 18 pages, this one's only 4 pages.
So to not belabor this point, I like Sal's point, perhaps for this year. On these lines, could we add $1 in these areas where we have nothing and that they're not ones that are there because we moved it to somewhere else?
We don't need it on every one.
Well.
If we had $2, that could be our contingency fund.
there you go.
So, because as you said, it's gonna look different next year when we have this software.
Let's just make sure we have enough flexibility to do things,
Yeah.
is my point. That's,
And that's,
Why bother?
that's a simple way to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So does that mean that the 01/31/53/10/560 is from 3,700 to 1?
Which one?
LENA,
Mission Municipal Association dues,
was that the line you were? talking about?
No.
Second.
assessing dues.
assessing dues. It was a buck, it's
Oh, I
gonna
see,
be a
okay,
buck.
It was empty, now it's gonna be.
Okay.
Okay.
So in that same.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to legal. For that. So we've got some reductions here. Oh, okay, partial allocation of planning board, I see.
Why didn't you move the whole legal? You moved some of the legal, why didn't you move all of it?
Because the planning board doesn't use all the legal costs.
Yeah, but who does use this?
Select board,
My signature.
Well, the vacancies in the planning board. That's done on the planning, right?
Yeah, it's related to another line, and you've got it in there under the planning board. But the problem with that is one of the functions that's a major function of the planning board has nothing to do with the planning board. Let me go find it.
Well, the legal.
If you go down and look under planning board, it's 4191-10-320.
Mhm.
And you got 36,000, it says land appeals, abatements and divisions, well, I assume it's subdivisions and land appeals. And it probably should include, building inspections as well. But, abatements is clearly not something that's
It's
a
select
function
board,
of the
isn't it?
planning board, it's the select. board.
But what's the other 24,000 for? Is that the select board
We
always?
usually spent about 50 to 60,000, depending on how ramp up.
I think it's, in my opinion, it would be prudent to keep the legal town attorney fees all in one category and pull it out of. Planning board. That'd be my recommendation, as it is a one-shot deal, the town is, sometimes it's combined between the select board and the planning board, and sometimes it's.
Yeah, we only did that because when the invoices come in, they specifically identified the problem that they're working on, the group they've hired. So sometimes the select board hires them, or that we do for warrant article drafting or other legal matters. And the only other people that can engage in is planning board. So we tried to take the invoices and just allocate the costs where they actually occur. Just following the invoices.
Okay,
You're
Jack,
not, your select board isn't spending all the money, planning board is spending some too, because you
But
got
the
3 or
abatement,
4 land appeals.
abatements is where all the money. That's a select board that spent that.
well, it's not just that, it's also, the fire department calls up and says, can we legally do this? And if I didn't know, I call the attorney, I don't know what your practice is. But that has nothing to do with the planning board or, well, it does on the town attorney, so that would be okay there. My only thing I highlighted in all of that was the abatements issue. It doesn't
Okay.
belong there, it goes up above. And I would just take the word out, leave the money there. You can always move the money between one account and another.
Yeah.
But
If you want it all in one, we can put it all.
I mean, in my mind, I like Stephen's proposal simply because. You're either gonna have it all in one place, or there doesn't need to be a legal section, right? I mean, because.
Yeah.
I mean, the prosecutor is the police department, isn't it? I mean,
No.
It's not?
well, the prosecutor is an attorney or an attorney lookalike that works.
A lot of times it's a
for-
police officer.
It is a police
Yeah.
officer. But
Well,
it's not a legal fee per se.
You participated in the regional prosecutor program where you have an attorney from Rockin, or from the
Gratiot
county attorney's office. That prosecutes your cases for you and you share the cost of that attorney.
Not here. Unless it changed since last October, it's done through Hanover.
But
Well,
you,
that's not the county, that's.
well, yeah. But you pay for it.
Yes,
You pay an incremental cost for the cost of the attorney town.
and yeah, you're right, it's a cop. Usually, I don't know what they may have hired them attorney now, but. Historically, it's always been an office.
I mean, I guess I understand the breaking it out when you're getting invoices, you're tracking it and see who's spending on what.
Well, the advantage of leaving it broken up, and I think it is an advantage, frankly. You're gonna be doing a lot of functions that are land related. Okay, and it's gonna take, I'm sure John and I agree on this one, it's gonna take a pile of money that's gonna go into it to enforce it. So it's at least a way for people to understand what the cost of enforcement is. As opposed to putting it up above where it's also melded with everything else that you get legal opinions on. So it's fine, the only thing is that abatement it doesn't have anything to do with enforcement, it's a tax issue.
So what is the board's pleasure on that? I don't think we've resolved the question. Are we gonna consolidate it or leave it the way it is?
I can offer another option
Yeah.
before you decide. We can also make another 4153 line. And create like subdivisions, so at least legal fall in 4153, but then have a couple additional lines in there. To be able to break it out.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that too.
so,
That's nice.
so you'd have 24,000 for something and then 36,000, a line that says legal for planning board? Is that
Yeah,
what you're thinking?
you know, listen, it can be whatever you want it to be, but generally, it's informative to know where
Yeah, sure. I
where
agree.
you're incurring your legal
I
fees.
agree.
If you had a $1 million legal budget and 800,000 of it was spent on the planning board, you'd want to revisit the planning board's operation and their compliance with the laws to avoid these appeals.
Yeah.
And so, and by the same token, if you incur those legal fees because you're firing people, it just helps disclose, all right, where are we spending the money and why? That's all. How that looks doesn't matter to us. We're just trying to break it up a bit for some to generate some.
I like that idea.
I'm assuming that the comment section is not gonna appear in the town report.
Correct.
Be voted.
Right.
So if you're gonna carry, if you're gonna do it, I think frankly, I like the idea, but it's up to the budget committee. But if you had the 320 and then had a 320, they said LE town attorney and 320. LE town attorney planning, okay? Or the first one is general legal, town attorney, general legal, the next one's planning. That would really do it, but you gotta do it in the column where the description is, it's gonna accompany the.
And we can actually look back at the invoices. And double
Yeah.
check to make sure that those, because we've got 3 suits on abatement now. That they were properly tagged to the select board office rather than the planning board. So there may be some interpretive.
I don't mind a legal account in planning, it's just that the 90% of the money that's there right now is not really the control of the planning.
I don't think you spent more than $50 last year.
Well, I think we spent a
Well,
couple
we-
grand.
We've got a lot more.
Getting wild over there, are you, John?
You've got 3 active appeals, so, yeah, you've been spending some money.
But those appeals are those.
But again, they're
On abatement.
Yeah, that's why I say we'll re-examine the language in the invoices to make sure that we're coded correctly. Because it could be by mistake, we just attach the abatements to planning versus select board.
So the planning board would be, you deny a subdivision and then they take it to court.
That would
We
be,
had,
Yeah.
we had a legal, thing that came up, we wanna know, can we do this, can't we do this, what do we know? So we called the lawyer. $950 later, we knew whether we could do it or not.
Tread carefully, John.
But one of the things that we never did, that we should have done, that. Our fault, my fault. Throw you in the bus too, but
Yeah,
we never did the enforcement on the junkyards. We never have enforced that, where we actually took people to court. Fortunately, at least a few of them did it because they thought it was a good idea, but most people are still recalcitrant.
Well, you gotta start enforcing it, otherwise you got no teeth.
So what I looked at first was how much was it in total? 60 grand. Is that what we usually spend? Yeah, it's usually 60 grand. I don't know what it was spent the year before, but it was, no, you already broke it up.
57.
Yeah, no. But so the long and short, it was 60 grand was not an unreasonable number overall for legal, but the problem is it didn't have enough money in there to do the enforcement on the
Junkyard.
junkyards. And 3 junkyard cases would be like 3 abatement cases, so it's gonna be 15 or 20,000 bucks.
The junkyard enforcement would be by the planning board.
Yeah.
So
Well,
if the planning board tells
I
us we
think
need to enforce
at
this,
this
they need
point,
to increase the budget,
The
right?
intent is to have everything that's building related, including the building inspector under you.
not that I know of.
Oh, all right, well, then put it under building inspector then.
So I think the thought we're agreeing on here is that legal fees are all gonna wind up under the legal category there, the 415310, and then you'll have little subcategories.
yeah, just try to break it out a little bit.
That'd be great.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, personnel administration. Looks like a lot of that was moved.
I propose that you put $1 in the 690.
690.
It has nothing to do with the boots per se, but if you had to do some type of a safety remediation in the town, that's the line that would come out of. The old days, you used to have to do inspections every year. You used to have safety meetings every quarter, and the legislature abolished it. But OSHA didn't. Those rules are still in effect, so there may be at some point, an inspection and people have to do something, and that's where it would come out of, is health and safety.
What's the LFRF tranche?
That should disappear. Carrie Ann, take it up.
Yeah, that's only there because there's.
That's a grant that we got something like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yep.
Can't
Expensive.
get it again?
Never come back.
Well, we wanted to get, yeah.
No, that's fine.
It was a renewal.
Gone.
The operative question for us is how many years do you want to keep the history before you zap out a line? Because you're at 4 years now.
Yeah,
That
and
was
that,
2021.
the LFRF is not a recurring program.
Yep.
So, get rid of it.
Karen, is the number's up $300, is that because they cost more or you anticipate more testing?
The on-site drug
On the
screening.
drug testing, I'm sorry.
We had been having the employees drive to the site take the test and come back, and they'd be using a work truck. So we started paying somebody to come on site and do the test to keep our people here and save time.
Gotcha.
Not
So
only driving the truck, but it was the time to away from.
Oh, sure.
Right, right.
The drive was.
Yeah, it was smart.
Probably the same.
Good move.
No, it's a more economical way to do it. Keeps people on the job,
Yeah, no,
then
good,
they'll come and test it here.
right? Good, it's personnel.
Government buildings. Let's see that. Salary line.
Like, flag both the first two numbers, it's not clear to me at all what's happened with there was 1.5 people who were involved with cemeteries, government buildings. And probably something, transfer station. And that's gotten so variable that I can't tell for sure where anything is, so it would be good. It says one full-time split with transfer station and cemetery, but then later on you got one full-time split between cemetery and government buildings. Well, it's the same full-time as far as I know. So you're gonna have to get a little more clarity in terms of what that is. Likewise. The second line is where the other one part-time split. Anyway, the office cleaning contract, it would be nice to know, just as it was up at the first line up above, how much of that is. Of that number is for the contractor, and is it a contracted service or is it an hourly service?
Okay, so what was your first question?
Give us detail on the first two lines, 110 and 120.
the full-time person always works 24 hours at the transfer station each week. And then the cemetery and buildings and grounds hours fluctuate between the remaining 16 hours.
Yeah, but
And
see,
he's
it didn't
coding it.
happen that way. In reality, so what used to happen.
Well, were you finished?
Sorry.
So he's actually breaking out on his timesheet the hours worked at each department. So I had the historical payroll records to see on average how much wages are being paid out of the 3 departments.
And so this represents an average for the general building, government building department.
Yes, typically that's our full-time employee, how much we're paying them to work at buildings and grounds. And then the same with the part-time line, that part-time position always works cemetery and buildings and grounds. So I looked at the average hours worked in each one and figured it out from there. And then the cleaning contract, we're paying about $2,500 a month. So I added that into the part-time line because that's just where the invoices were hard coded. And
What was that before, carrying the,
it's always been coming out of the part-time line. It's hard-
the office cleaning contract, where were we paying for that before? What's the history on that? Because if you're, that line, 120 is jumping up $30,000. I guess that's what Mike's question is, but.
Yeah, I don't know if it had been, so our accounts payable system's written that invoice vendor always comes out of that line. So I just went with it when I started doing AP, so if it was changed after that, I don't know where it was, I'd have to go dig through the previous accounts payable records. So I just followed what the system was set up to do.
That's good, just functionally, there were 2 bodies, there was Barry Geddes and his brother. In the fact, okay. His brother was only a half year worker, he worked when the cemeteries opened and he stopped when the cemeteries closed. It's a part-time worker. Barry was split originally between 2 departments, government buildings. Why? Because in the summertime, you have cemeteries, in the wintertime, cemeteries aren't doing much business. So we had him doing all the repairs in the buildings and doing as much of the repair work as possible in the wintertime. When we had a vacancy that we had trouble filling at the transfer station, he went over there. So that meant that 24 hours was coming out of his time over at the transfer station. The rest of the time, I'm assuming, goes into the cemeteries, but I don't know that. I have no idea. So I'm just giving you the realistic version of what it used to be in terms of who did what. All right, and I don't care what it is. I just want to be able to understand it, and I can't tell without more detail.
To Stevens and Mike's point, to the extent it's an office cleaning contract, is there any way that that could be just a separate line?
Yeah, I can definitely make a contract.
Cause that's not an employee, right? That's a separate contract that we have,
Correct, it's a vendor that we pay through
Yeah.
AP, not an employee.
just, and then we'd see what the,
We could add a 390 line.
yeah,
For that,
that would be great. Does anybody else think that's a good idea? Yeah,
Good idea.
yeah, just add a 390 line.
thank you.
Yeah, and where was that before?
So was it, always been in the same place, so you just carry it through.
So if you look back at the history, Sally,
sorry.
the number is there, it's not showing up in the 2023.
No, I see, 31, 30, yeah, I got you. I
If you
get
look at 22 expended, it was 31,000.
Gotcha. Yep. Understand, thank you.
And on that, the insurance, life insurance, FICA, Medicare, all of this is tied to the proportion that is with government buildings for these employees, right?
Yes.
So now I'll bring this question. I have a question. Do you calculate that number, the FICA Medicare piece? Is that a calculated number or do you just plug that in there?
It's form.
And so is that based on the total of 11 and 40, so 51,000? Is that? what-
Well, no, so it would include the office cleaning piece.
It wouldn't.
So.
No, because they're contracted, they're unemployed.
I understand, that's,
Yeah, so the personnel budget, I
Got it.
have all the employer taxes calculating off of the employees' wages. And then I just went through and plugged it in and then added the part-time office taking contract on top of it.
So Carrie, can you just verify, because when we were talking about that back at the beginning. It was like $1,200 for the office, for the town hall employees. And here we're talking about, what, 1.5 people, and that FICA and retirement is much higher than the unemployment insurance, okay, but it seems like it's not the right percentage
right, that's what I was getting at.
for people.
Okay, yeah, you're correct. I did.
Right, yeah,
Put the formula in there. Yeah, you can see my formula. I did include the office cleaning contract.
right. That's what I thought. Yeah, and that also, is that for the retirement piece as well?
No retirement, I typed in there manually, so I
Okay.
took that from the personnel
All
budget.
right, good, okay, all right, good. So that's not the, it's more like $1,600 or something.
Did those numbers come out of the retirement system sheets? In other words, is this the most up to date one? Didn't look right.
Spreadsheet. What was the question?
The retirement.
New Hampshire retirement system puts out for employers, municipalities, what the rates are for fire, police, general labor, type of thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
it changed July 1st, and I used the new rate.
Okay, that's what the question was, because it seemed low in some areas. In other areas seemed high, so I don't know. Maybe that's just a function of how the wages are. applied. I don't know.
I can email you the personnel budget, and then you can see in the formula that you made is for retirement. Because it did change July 1st.
I'm torn, I'm not a big fan of doing how everybody's personality. Okay, but on the other hand, I don't know any other way of checking.
And that's why I didn't print it and put it in
Yeah.
the book.
That's good.
Definitely not have to go in book, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So I got a flag.
I'm just curious, why did we budget so much for this year for electricity? It seems like the history wouldn't support such a huge number, but I'm just,
Well, you spent $7,000.
previous year, I guess that's, no,
Remember the electricity doubled,
yeah.
and I don't know how much it's gone down in the most recent season. I doubt it went down a hell of a lot.
Is that gonna be enough then? That budgeted?
Well, who knows?
Yeah, right.
I mean, you're right, the cost of electricity itself pretty much doubled. In general, going from like 12.5 cents to 22.5, and then it was a short term, 4 or 5 months, something like that, and it's supposed to drop back down. Depends on the carrier and some other things, but. Yeah, yeah,
And the 10,000 was budgeted for this year. Was trying to assure that at least half of the year was doubled, and covering that, but not the full year. But it ought to be revisited again, just to double check and see. I mean, you had all summer, so what were the rates in the summer versus in the winter? If they were the same, then you're pretty much screwed. You gotta double it. That's easy.
And we find that pretty much through all the departments on electricity, you guys kind of push that back a little bit. As a,
Yeah, I keep track of all the electricity bills
Mhm.
every month, so you can see each meter number, how much we're paying.
okay,
We still in government building?
We are.
yeah,
Under 430, which is repairs and maintenance. The library got $100,000 going into repairs and maintenance. It is a town building, and historically, for the building itself, it doesn't come out of the library. Okay, so if you go way down at the bottom and look at what was in there, what's proposed in the budget for the library. You will see a number that is $130,000 library building repair and maintenance. So,
where are we,
Question.
Mike, where are you?
okay, it's.
He's on
you
a
go
computer
past-
screen, so we gotta flip some pages.
Yeah.
way down.
It's way down, okay.
All the way at the bottom. There's zero.
Way down, it's all way down.
So I don't know, there's not, you know, paper numbers would be great, Carrie.
They are on there, Mike, on the right hand corner.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We have eight and start the library.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, 10,
Five,
let's see, 130,000 for the
Nine.
library building,
10.
so.
yeah, I see that.
And I tried to reconcile it with everything of the buildings that wasn't coming out. With the dam, so I just flagged it as something to talk about.
So what,
Why are you jumping there now?
Yeah, what's
When
the
you're talking
point?
about the-
Because we were on government buildings, okay? If you go back to government buildings, it says $44,000 for repairs and maintenance. So theoretically, that's what the number would be for the library building repairs, would be into that. It is not paid for by the trustees, it's paid for
Okay.
by the town.
Okay. So you,
And I
you'd
know
recommend
what the
moving that
roof
up?
Leak is, I know what the roof leak is either at the town office or over at the senior center. And both of them are either minor or less than a grand.
Okay.
Okay. As a matter of fact, I talked to the guy that fixed it the last time, which was 3 years ago, and he told me what's wrong, and so I know that it's not a huge issue.
Well, you found the contingency account,
Huh?
you found the contingency account.
Well, there's about 500,000 in contingency accounts in the city, if you want to do it from that point of view.
So is your suggestion then to move that 130 to the government buildings line?
Yeah, but we're gonna have to talk about it. I certainly don't want to spend $175,000 for building repairs.
Well, that's okay, but if we move it there now, then we know it's a number
We
we
have a
gotta
place
talk
to
about.
talk.
Okay with me.
Okay,
Let's just get that done and then
Besides which, you won't have the library trustees coming in to kill you.
that's, well, okay. I don't think they're really violent.
I mean,
so can we do that?
Well, it was a question on our side, not knowing
Go ahead.
necessarily the history
Yeah.
of the structure is. If there's a mechanism to use some of those funds to fix the library
Trustee
building for the
funds.
library. Would that save any money off the back of the taxpayer? And that's a political question or a structural question. But, you know, one of the things we wanted to do is to identify, how do we mitigate these fairly substantial potential repairs? And not simply raise it through mere taxation. So, but if those funds are not designated at all for that purpose, then you're right, it takes it off the table. You have to figure out how else to pay.
so several questions come up on that process, okay? I saw the notes, so I saw what's there, but yeah, I know which roof it is. I know it's a senior citizen roof, I don't know.
But both actually.
And I know for a fact that what people have been yelling about the library roof is not correct. So my next question would be, if we were spending time on this, which I don't want to do, is, so who actually evaluated to see what needed to be done? Because about 40 people in this town think that they know exactly what needs to be done. We had 2 roofers go up and look at it and tell us what to do, we did it. So I'm just curious as to where that came from, so that's worth a question. I know that there's been a problem getting the building painted. I know there's been a discussion about putting siding on. I don't know what the current thought process is about getting it painted or siding. I think it went up a bit, is that correct?
Yeah.
We've advertised it, we've got maybe one, well, we definitely got one contractor interested in looking at it, I'm trying to find more. again, that 130 is just a placeholder. We've got a rough estimate that says, you know, given the repairs that are necessary,
But that
That
placeholder
might-
becomes taxes.
what's that?
That placeholder becomes taxes,
Exactly.
or wipes out the non-lapsing trustees account that you have no right to take money out of. Nor does the board of selectmen have any right to take that money out of from the library trustees.
But we've had initial conversations with the library to see if we can come to an agreement about sharing some of the cost of the library.
They're gonna give you 135.
I don't think they will, but we're trying not to wipe out both funds, Mike, and we're gonna have that conversation. We have not had that conversation with the library. We have floated the idea in front of them, and we're hopefully gonna come to some kind of
Then
agreement.
please share before the end of the year, otherwise. I personally am not in favor, I wasn't in favor from year one when I first showed up, I'm still not in favor. Of saying, okay, we might do this in the future, so let's throw in 100,000 into the pot.
Well, our future is here because the library is gonna melt into the ground pretty close to how that is happening right now.
Right, well, we don't need to settle that issue tonight, right? So I think the smart thing to do is move the money over into the funds and we'll have a big number there. That'll be $174,000 and then we'll.
But we will need
At
more
some point in
information.
time, we'll have
Yeah,
to get some more information and go from there.
decide whether that's too big or.
Let's not
you know.
agonize over something we can't resolve. Let's just move on.
And like you said, maybe there's some stuff that could be done, although I don't know if it's the type of project that could be done in bits or if it's, you know, I don't know. So
Yeah,
that's,
we're gonna want some
concept would
information
be-
on this.
Yes, one concept would be if you can find a contractor, at least do the repairs. The columns are rotten, there's some rot in the back, there's some rot around the windows. I mean, there's replacement of something. You have to decide the material you're gonna use. That is acceptable to select board and the trustees in the town. And then maybe you could do fall year, you do the painting of it, you can't waste money on the painting until you get the repairs done. We have to find a contract that's available to do the work. Okay, there's a fair amount of.
My point is, you're working on this now.
Yeah,
And
we'll
over the
revisit
next
that.
month or two,
I'm
we're
hoping
gonna
at
have a
least
lot
get-
more information and we can
Yeah.
make a better decision.
sounds good.
I don't have any money in there for the library roof because. Because I don't know really, I don't think it's a big issue, but there's still buckets up there. And at least in the winter, it still leaks, so. Makes some sense to,
Yeah,
for
somebody
somebody.
explain the reason. The government buildings guy used to go up on the roof and shovel it off. So if nobody goes up on the roof and shovels it off, it will build up, so you get 4 feet of snow and it stays on the roof. It's over the lip, the lip is about that high, so that's high enough, so it shouldn't make any difference for a storm, okay?
Right.
But 6 storms, it makes a difference, so the buckets are there just in case. The only rot that I'm aware of on the roof is the one section that's about 4 feet long. It's on the backside of the library, it's probably 30 feet up from the town office end. And there is a problem there, but it's all fascia type stuff, it's not anything that's structural. The columns have been rotted and they were fixed and they should have been replaced with the fiberglass columns. When we did it the last time, but the board chose not to do that. But that would have been the smart move because it would look the same, but you wouldn't be doing it every 3 years.
Okay.
But in any event, we need to get some type of definition rather than plug it in $175,000.
So we'll get some more information on that, and hone that in a little bit more.
Right, but for now, put the 174 in and this way we'll know it's something we need to resolve.
Yeah. And that's a big number. And so anything else on the government buildings?
The only thing I'll note is the senior center, the Grange building. Apparently half of the roof was done 5 or 6 years ago, maybe. But the other half, you know, they're peeling up, that's where the leak comes through into the electrical components, that sort of thing. I've got somebody looking at the roof, they replaced the half that wasn't done. And I don't have a number on that. I don't think it's gonna be a lot, but I don't know, I don't even want to guess.
All right.
Oh, well, we'll get an answer.
We got a question on 431, which probably is pretty significant. GB is missing. Is there a reason?
I'm sorry, what was the number, Joe?
Line 431 on the government building,
Property cleanup costs?
GB is missing from the account title.
Oh,
Don't need a dollar there. Okay.
I don't know what it is. but
You know, so
Oh, I see.
let me pose a question. If you take over a property that it could be characterized as a town dump, and you want to sell the property. There has to be a line to cover the cost of the cleanup of the property if you're gonna sell the property. So I would suggest on the government buildings where it was cleanup, that's what it was for.
For the dollar.
It was to put a dollar in.
All right, can we do that?
Let's move on.
Anything else on government buildings?
Yeah, fire extinguishers under the state inspections. You've got the, I think, did you put the fire extinguishers there? The long and short of it is, you've got something state inspections and you got something else, something similar in another department. And that really ought to have, the fire extinguishers are part of the inspections are, and they're the elevators. And those are the annual ones that ought to be in the line that's for state inspections. And I've forgotten where it's now, it's not located there anymore.
It's in
The fire extinguisher.
Service 68 in the 4150 63 42. No, 360 69, which is service contracts, fire extinguisher.
That's a separate outside contract.
Buildings as the state inspections, is that what you're saying, Mike?
Is it somebody different? It used to be Hampshire Fire.
I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same one.
They come in, they inspect the extinguishers to see if they need to be recharged enough. They take them out and service them, and bring them back.
Right.
That was always under state inspections because the state requires it. We have to meet the standards, just like the elevators. Do we sometimes have to have repairs to the elevators? Yes, and that's where it would come out of, was on the state inspection. Those are really the only two that we really have state inspections on to spend money. So they ought to be together under state inspections.
While we're talking government buildings, I have one other thing that just rattled around in my brain. Have we figured out what we're doing about generators? We've had that conversation in the CIP crowd, but there's been no conversation since about that.
Correct there.
So we have no thought yet about what we intend to do about backup generators for our government buildings.
We do not.
That's okay. So that's something that we really need to start to think about. I don't know.
Where are the extinguishers?
It's
not a fire extinguisher, it's a generator.
You got one up under the town hall. And it's $2,000. It's only TH.
Right.
DH service contract,
And then you got one down below under government buildings,
state inspection.
which is state inspections.
So you're not interested in separating the state inspection from the fire extinguishers?
That is a state inspection.
Well. No, I guess the idea
We're in a
is.
state, no, we're in a state fire is not a state.
The only reason you're having the state inspections is because the state mandates you to have them inspected by a service company. And it's on a specific schedule established by state law, so that's the state inspection, you get the same thing to the elevators.
So you wanna combine them in all one?
Yeah, state inspections.
Firehouse goes, but yeah. But you know,
Not to me,
So where do we go about buildings?
but I think we just separated because one is a private contract, you put out the bid for your extinguishers. Yeah, it's required. There's a lot of things. And the separate is the bill you get from the state of New Hampshire.
Okay, well, people like me are gonna look at it and see two different state inspections, two different lines.
They inspect
So-
furnaces too, don't they?
Yeah.
But that's also
Well,
contracted out.
that's very rare. If you got a problem, you get an inspection of the furnace.
Doesn't matter to us, whatever you wanna do. We can put them together.
I don't feel strongly either way.
anybody out there have any?
And your contract is so much for a fire extinguisher. It's not, you honestly changed it. You don't have a blanket
No,
$2,000 a year, so it's just,
they give us an itemized list of the extinguishers and where they are.
I still think it ought to be in the buildings. I don't think it's up to people, but
Wasn't the intent to try to put things where they even were impacting the budget, right?
Yeah, I think that's what these guys have tried to do.
But now we're bringing them a few times, we lump them back together.
It really, it's not a big
Not
issue.
strong feeling.
You've got multiple extinguishers in every building, and so they come and they spend days and days and report in, and they drop the slips off, and you get an itemized list, and everything they did to every.
All the
extinguisher.
more reason though why it should be under government buildings, it's a plural in buildings.
You know, I don't have a, I don't, amend me, but
So you'd be taking it from TH and moving it to GB?
Combining.
Would you
Well,
want
actually,
to,
it's eliminating, because that was a new expense under, TH, so,
okay,
correct?
Yes.
So it actually takes the 2,000 right out of it.
Well, they better go back and look historically.
Looking at it historically, we're not at 4,000 generally. I mean, one year we spent 4,100 almost.
Okay.
State inspections.
so we can do that.
Right?
You're good?
Cemeteries,
Wait on, should get generators. We need to have a conversation about generators. I forget what the whole conversation was, but
is that a
do you remember
CIP
what we
thing?
talked about? Well, I don't know. I'm trying to remember whether I don't think we put it in the CIP.
no,
world, right?
you didn't.
No. Is this something we
I
should?
think- I think there was, I think the thrust of the conversation was, there was an observation that. Maybe even this building.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a generator, and yet this is your emergency operations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, there's one out here in office.
That was replaced about, when they built this, they replaced the generator and upsized it about 300%.
You'll know something.
Yeah,
Right.
other than the CIP meeting. we
Right.
talked about the generator.
Yeah,
The generator on the fire department side is undersized for the building.
okay.
There's also another generator that runs PV and splits for the ambulance also. That one's pretty much at its max capacity for it. The highway garage has a generator that is undersized for the highway department too. That's what we're starting talking about for
Right,
the three main operational pieces of the buildings.
yeah,
In at the CIP meeting. And
Right.
there was some conversation in that looking forward in the budgetary replacement into that. For those, and then we're looking at what we could do for the actual longevity of life, run hours on the generators and everything else. Some could have been moved around, there's like one up to the water plant. That got moved from a donation out here up to there, I don't even know if it's currently hooked up, but looking at other places like that strategically, they're gonna have to keep the town operating as a main.
right. So we need to have somebody looking into this and figuring out what we need to do around generators to keep our buildings running in disasters, right? Is that accurate?
Sounds like a little clarity wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
But who would do it?
So where would that
Well,
fall under?
This is the first I'm hearing about it, so.
I understand.
So-
That's why I just rattled it out of my head.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we
The
have,
emergency management director, John Hennessy,
yeah,
it's a good choice, he can do it,
okay.
he's got a lot of free time, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Well, I just got a new chore. He's got to check some bell tower or something once a year.
Usually gets volunteered here.
Well, I will check with him and have him do a little bit of a memo on what the capacity is, where they are and that sort of thing. We can present it at a select board meeting, have a discussion, and then figure it out. Offload it to either CIP or
Great.
this budget, and
Right,
you
yeah, I
guys
just-
can figure out what to do.
Okay.
Yeah,
When
I-
you do that, there is an extra generator up the water plant. And the plan was to put that generator at the northeast corner of the town office. Because the town office doesn't have any generator, and it is necessary in many emergencies because some of the servers need to be working. So that was available, it's a big enough one for the town office. But it's sitting up there, so when you consider the generators, check that.
Well,
And maybe
you just
whoever
put-
does the
John.
generator assessment, have them check the loads.
Mhm.
Because it is. There is a tendency in generators. That if you need to have like a. Huge, if you think, look, you can take any building and there's a rated capacity. And the rated capacity is gonna be
I
different.
think we can abstract here.
yeah, well, I agree. Let's
Let's
just,
check it, get somebody else.
yeah, well, that's why we're gonna have John do it.
Then you can talk about putting money into the budget to actually move it and
I understand.
connect it, because that's.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to spend a fair amount of money on
Yeah,
electric.
if you want, I'll sit in with you and John and that way I can.
Yeah.
Help out. So just,
Yeah.
when you guys
maybe
want to
we
get
a
together,
ballpark on,
let me know.
The electrical costs.
Or if you want, I'll just go talk to John, whatever you wanna do.
Whatever you, I'm fine with it
Yeah,
either
all
way.
right, I'll go chase John, because you are only around 2 days a week, so
Yeah,
you've got
that's
other
fine.
things to do. I'll go chase John and
That'd be
get something going.
Yep.
We'll figure it out.
From a budget standpoint, this line that's repairs and maintenance. It's probably the right home for the cost of it, unless you wanna run it as a separate warrant article. And if you do that, you could change the 2024 notes and just say generate. Leave that word in that line.
All right, good.
Well, I'll get with John quick and then we'll start something and figure out something.
All right, cemeteries, moving on. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anything of note there, anybody wants to raise?
It's the same issues about the part-time, full-time stuff. So, just clarification, like on the one that says one, on the 120 line. It says one part-time split with cemetery, well, actually, usually it's split with the government buildings too, so. As long as there's some clear chart of how that works, that would be great. It's complicated.
And there's no money for retirement on the cemetery folks. They don't get a retirement.
It really just ends up being the payroll system automatically codes retirement and taxes based on the hours worked. So when that position works in cemetery, retirement automatically codes there. So I just put it all under the first buildings and grounds.
Oh, I'll get you. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. Got it. Understood.
so it's budgeted somewhere.
Okay.
More, the cost of more needs to be under the general fund? Or, what's that?
Yes.
The CIP was, the plan says we need to buy more, is that it? And
It
there's no-
usually is in the general fund.
Pardon?
It usually is in the general fund.
No, okay. It's equipment I wanted to.
It is part of the CIP, well, it used to be part of the CIP plan. And, but there's part of the CIP plan that was funded purely out of the general fund, that's
Right.
right.
Okay, that's just. So.
Yeah, just as a general heads up, some of the things that were in the CIP spreadsheet. I think we determined were not really CIP issues and we kind of skinnied some of those down, but we do look at every item. That is going to be purchased to the general fund, that's over $5,000. And has a more than a 3-year life. We look at it to make sure that it makes sense, so we have a recommendation about whether that should happen or not.
Advertising, why is there not at least $1 there? You have to put ads in the paper every year for the closing of the cemeteries.
And the same with burials, do we have any cost of burials or?
So advertising,
I know, I see that one, I got you
you
there, but
don't put for rent signs up or for sale signs.
no,
We could sell plots, couldn't we?
People are dying to get in there.
We run that ad that says,
yeah,
get that.
it's a demand thing.
Yeah. All right, so let's put $1 in with advertising notices. Do we need the same for burial or is? Probably
No,
not.
that's just one.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
All right, insurance, property and liability insurance, next line.
Is that a final number? You got it already?
No, October 15th, they're released.
So
When was
that's
that?
TBD.
October 15th.
Yeah, I just put the same
That's fine.
percentage it went up last year, I put it in for this year.
General government. Oh, yeah, some,
I don't know the breakout on the. I see it's been broken out, and I see it's in other departments. But I really don't have a good idea. For instance, on the police department's got 9,200 Comcast consolidated. But I don't know what phone bundle means up under general government. So again, if we could get some type of transparency on how it was allocated. If you look under GG, you got alarm line phone bundle only. Okay, and I don't know what the phone bundle means.
We pay about $600 a month for all the phone numbers and it comes on one invoice. So that was making more sense to me to keep on one line because everything's bundled. where the other invoices come broken out. The Comcast bills are easy because each building gets its own Comcast bill, so those are easy to break out. Where consolidated, it's one chunk of all the phone numbers we buy through them.
Anything else?
Postage has gone up more than double for something there. Might, no, am I right? Yeah, budgeted 7, we're up to 15.
So we're leasing a postage machine, and it's about $1,000 a month. And then when we need to replenish ink and replenish postage, that's all being coded to that account line.
Right.
I don't know that there was a lease in the past. I don't know how it was done. But that's based off of the lease that was just signed in 2023.
Oh, okay, so it's a new deal. Because last year we only had $7,000 budgeted for
We've
this.
always had the postage machine, right?
Yes,
I don't know if it's the one, did we get a new one in
I don't
2023?
know, I don't
Yeah,
recall.
there is a new machine. So that's the least machine.
It was,
Signing up for that.
right, so it's just
was the same
new
one
equipment,
that
more
was-
money.
New equipment, updated software, if I recall, as we had ours at work that we had to
Mhm.
re-up
Yeah,
to.
that's fine, that's just. It was a big number.
Yeah, it's double, more than double.
That's-
I have the contract. with
Those
the office.
Pitney Bowes guys must be Pitney Bowes, right? They're desperate for money.
All right.
Okay.
Bridges, where is that? Backwards or forwards?
What page is Bridges on? Help out.
They're on 4313, so it's gonna be all the.
on the highway.
On the highway.
Oh, yeah, here we are. It's got $1.
What page you on there, kiddo?
Seven.
7. Seven.
It's usually funded out of, warrant article. But if you wanna spend it, you're either gonna get the appropriation out of the warrant article. Actually, you're not gonna get it. There is no appropriation usually for bridges. That's one thing that the selectmen can actually spend. They have authority to spend money out of the bridge account, but you can't run it through the general fund unless you get $1 in it. So that's really what's there.
Okay, move on. Good.
Streetlights, $25,000. Same as last year.
Right.
Any comment on that?
Is that the electricity for them? Or
Rent the
or buying
bulbs,
new poles?
rent the bulbs.
So that's just the electricity.
Used to be almost double that.
Health?
It is possible, though, just raise the issue on electricity for streetlights, it is possible you can do something like what Lebanon did, which I thought was. Pretty sneaky, but actually quite effective. So they got the utility to put in LED lights, streetlights. And the deal was, it's actually costing them less now, net, than it was before, because on the LEDs, they're variable. So, and they're a lot brighter. So if you put them in, I think the last time I knew, Lebanon was running at a 60% capacity. So they were saving tons of cash on the electricity that offset the cost of putting the LED lights. I'm just mentioning it for the future. That I thought it was a crazy idea until somebody sat down with me and actually told me that it's saving a lot of money. Doesn't mean people didn't yell about it.
Health.
Oh, yeah, there we are. Page 6.
Right here on the bridges.
Health, one part-time salary. Health, is that right?
You want
Health?
health inspector?
Health officer.
I'm assuming that's what AG is.
Yeah, okay.
Page. Next, I did it, okay. There you go.
Page 8.
Got it.
No change.
Again, what are you gonna do?
Veterinary and other supplies,
I'll put $1 in
yeah,
there.
put $1 in both of those.
Just use the veterinary line in this week's check processing, so it did come up.
Okay,
The police took an animal to the Upper Valley Humane Society.
All right, so you're gonna put $1 in both of those?
I think she already said she'd go through Good Dollar and all those accounts anyways.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So,
Thank you, Steve.
Just-
Appreciate that. Don't have to keep repeating myself over and over. Thank you.
So this didn't get the 2.8%.
They
Good.
just started submitting hours through Google, so I didn't have anything to go off of, and since it wasn't even close to the 2,500, I just kept it the same.
Recreation. We're starting the bottom of page 8. Part-time rec director,
Mhm.
and that goes up because now we have a employee.
That was the proposition for the budget committee.
Okay,
So we've had in past years, 2020 and previous, there's $10,000 that went towards the rec director. We haven't had one for years. We have someone volunteering right now. They do the farmer's market and they've talked to us about other ideas for holidays and winter activities. So I put it in there for the budget committee to consider.
Yeah, I believe it stopped during COVID. That's why.
okay.
It's basically a stipend.
Stipend, it is a stipend, but you still gotta do the taxes on that. in Stipend,
Yeah.
Yeah, pay is pay.
oh, what is this? The stipend is more than like $500, right, or something like that, you gotta report it and pay taxes.
There is also a possibility on this one, when
What's her
that was
name?
all being done, there's a non-lapsing recreation account. Okay. And once you've got the line in there, and I support the 12,000. So I like the idea. But let's assume you wanted to go to a halftime, it's gonna cost you 25,000. There's no reason you can't do that. If the other part of it comes out of a non-lapsing account. And I have no idea, actually, I do have an idea. You got the revenue reports. See, if you go and look at the recreation revenue report, you're gonna see that the after school program is still making tons of cash.
Okay.
So if, in the past, that's going to fund things like the swim program and paying part of the cost of the recreation director. So. Needs to get the money, it needs to have a base support from the town voters, so that's why it's 10 or 12 or whatever. So I would support that, but
What's the select board's position on that, or does it not have one?
I'm not sure.
Not sure, you haven't discussed
I
it.
don't want to speak to all boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, one of the things that's come out of the Economic Development Committee, the new group that's formed, is we're gonna try to figure out how to integrate more of recreation kind of stuff. Coming up, we don't have anything specific yet, but there's gonna be things that we've talked about.
But you're also losing, every year, there's a problem with losing the volunteers that are running like Mascoma Valley Youth. Because it's difficult to get people to volunteer to put in a lot of time on administrative services.
Oh, I'm not saying we shouldn't get the money,
No, but I'm just saying
Go
that-
ahead.
It's not just to increase the economic growth in the
Yeah.
community.
Uh-huh.
It's also to sustain the programs that are there.
Right.
You gotta be in a position where somebody's gonna pick up the load if everybody else drops it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you'll lose all sorts of activities.
Okay. Yeah, well, let's see if we
You
can-
also need $1 into contracted services.
The last time it was that high was back in 2019, so to Steve's point, it was really COVID that knocked it back down.
You know, we didn't go back up after that. I mean,
Yeah.
COVID ended, but we didn't go back because the budget was so terrible.
Okay. Cultural. Cultural, other recreation, is that what that is? $1,000,
That's the old one days.
okay. Patriotic,
Flags.
flags,
And the library contribution is that time, isn't it?
we got no debt service?
So when you get a seat, there's some things you ought not to be dealing with, like on the personal administration, all the health insurance, we don't know until we see what the health insurance premiums look like.
Mhm.
Same thing as debt service, when CIP gives you a report. And if you can look at the proposal, whether it's gonna be a lease purchase or what it's gonna be, you'll plug in the blanks, but right now,
We got
you haven't got any
nothing.
idea, I'm not sure they got any idea yet, so
No need to discuss it. Capital outlay equipment,
same deal.
same deal?
Yeah, you need to have $1 in
All right, good.
I had a question about capital outlay.
Yeah.
What should I put in there? I just copied 2023.
That's because that was supposed to pay the debt service for the loan that was supposed to be taken out to buy a new grader last year. But nobody warned it. Therefore, it didn't get bought. There was no debt service, no lease to do it. And that money is superfluous now, and it's just gonna go into the non-lapsing account. But on the other hand, if you wanna buy a truck and it's not approved from like a highway truck, for instance, that let's say is a 1-ton, and it's not approved anywhere in a warrant article, and you wanna buy it, you better have $1 in that account, because that's where you would run the truck through.
So do you want capital outlay? Should it be $1? Should
At
I
least
take out
until we get through the CIP. If in fact you go to a massive lease purchase program, then that's where the money will go for the payments on a lease purchase.
Well, good, that's what I got for tonight, and unless there's any, is there any other business anybody wants to raise?
Just an observation.
Yes.
I mean. I double checked maybe 4 or 5 of them, but you really just move stuff around, you know, so some look like they're down 50 grand, but.
Right.
They're up 50 grand someplace else. But so far, I mean, I know from our first meeting, we said. 15%, 12%, 25%, whatever the decrease, but whatever we covered today looks like a walk.
Yeah.
You know, so
Mhm.
far, at least that was my feeling, you know, just back to the match book.
So we paying for life.
Other than the library, yeah, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, well, the library is a big hit.
Yeah.
But then you got 100,000 for winter thing, you got 400,000, I mean, there's a bunch of other things that will get you way over.
But we also have money in the CIP for government buildings, and we, like I said before, we're talking to the library trust fund.
Yeah.
So, for some of that money. So. The only other thing I want to say is our start time for these meetings, we were gonna vote on that each meeting for the next meeting, so I just want to make sure that's on the table first. I think we only voted to get this one started at 6. so.
And I think, you know, they're posted for 6 PM. And I think we'd vote if we wanted to change it. Does anybody want to change it? Back to 7? I'm fine with it, you know, it makes my tummy grumble a little bit, but that's okay. Helps us get our motivated to.
Plus it gives us some breathing room if we get stuck on something.
That's right, that's right. So
Appreciate that.
I think next one, which is 2 weeks from today, right, I believe?
October 19th.
19th, October 19th, at 6 PM. Same place.
All right, move to adjourn.
All right, in a second. All those in favor? Say aye. Opposed? All right, thank you all.
Nice work. Good boy. That's Bill. Last year. Even the county. Was this recorded? All the same, if we increased ours by.
Recorded?
16%.
Yes.
Increases.
I know I'm not gonna be here in a second.